Welcome back to the Marlins here on OOTP 26, and as you can see, we are here at the end of the 2035 season after losing in the World Series, or not the World Series, but losing in the LCS to the Dodgers, who then went on to win the World Series. After our fifth straight 100-win season, we are now ready to embark upon the offseason, prepare for the 2036 year, which will be the first season with two new teams in the league, and a new realignment, obviously. So new alignment, it'll be 4 divisions. We'll get into all that at some point a little bit later on in the offseason here. Once the awards get given out, we will do the realignment. And then, of course, there'll be an expansion draft. We'll help protect players. They might be taking players from us. So we have some stuff to do here before the offseason, or before that happens, and figuring out what our roster is going to look like. We do have a option decision on Ivar Arquette, who I am leaning towards just either trading him or just voiding the last year of his contract, because he was fine-ish for us, but we're just not going to do that. I think one of our big problems this season was our lineup was just way, way too top-heavy, with Ashedri Vargas completely falling off a cliff, and Ivar Arquette just being a decent short-side platoon player. Angel Miguel was just terrible down the stretch. You look at his splits month by month. Started off pretty well the first 3 months, and then July, August, September was just flat out horrible. So, not really looking at him to be a starter for us, and we just need to get more guys that can bang in this lineup, because we basically have a black hole once we get past Mark Antonio, McCoy, Garza, and Garcia when it comes to offensive production. And obviously those are 4 really, really good hitters, but we saw that that's not enough for us to go through and get to the World Series, because we got absolutely destroyed by the Dodgers. Our pitching, which was one of our better assets this season when it came to the bullpen, nobody can execute in that series, and it just was tough. I think we're going to have to make some changes to our pitching philosophy as well. Try to move away from having so many of these low control, high stuff guys. Obviously, Godfroy is solidified himself now as a starting pitcher for us, so he's going to be back. Patino's going to be back. But aside from that, we don't really know who's going to be in our rotation. Jose Hernandez here is... he's signed to an extension for 1 more year. So we have one more year at $7.4 million for him, because that's what he was going to get in arbitration anyways. So we have 3 starters guaranteed spots in our rotation, but if we can get out from under Ramon Hernandez's contract, I would not be opposed to that. Now that he's turned into a guy where his movement isn't the greatest, his control has always been awful. I think we might try to get out from under his contract this offseason and just try to move away from these low control guys and go back to my usual philosophy of getting guys that just work ground balls, limit damage, and just try to have as many guys as we can that are ground ballers, because that's just how I prefer to build the staff. And I think a lot of these walks have been costing us, so we're going to try to get away from that. We've also got some bullpen guys who are on their last option years. We haven't had everybody on the team right now because we only have 31 guys on the Florida active roster. But some of these guys that are on the 40-man, like Gustavo Rico, for example, does not have an option for next season. So we've got guys like that where we might look to be trading these guys or just moving on from them, because we want to have more flexibility when it comes to our bullpen arms and guys that we can actually move up and down when they need to be moved up and down. And, so we're going to do a bit of retooling this offseason, I feel like I said, trying to get some more bats that bang, aside from this core 4 that we have here, and then trying to shift our arms back in the direction of control, movement, ground ball type pitchers. And I should also mention that we have 2 guys who are potentially going to be on our big league staff this season, in Andy Hodge, who won the Southern League pitcher of the year. Andy Hodge, right-hander, first-round pick in 2033. Dominated Double-A this year. Hopefully these ratings can fill in and he can actually develop and not just hang out at this 40-45 level. He was up and down on some things this year. Hopefully he can figure it out and actually be a good pitcher for us. There's also Adelmar Sadio, who has a horrible personality, but very, very good finesse, not very, very good, but he's a 5th, 4th starter type, as a finesse lefty, pretty average across the board at the moment, but could possibly be a decent left-hander to have in the big leagues for us. So just a rough idea of guys that pretty much have guaranteed spots on the hitting side of things. Obviously, DH Mark Antonio, Garza in right, Head in center, Garcia in left. Brooks Lee is signed for one more season at 13.5 as a defense-first shortstop. And then Jalen McCoy at first, who we are going to look into extending this offseason as well. And then Dustin Aspel right now is our catcher. Vargas, after the season he just put up, I'm kind of even looking at him to be like a backup, which is frustrating because he's making $22 million this upcoming season, and then $20 million the year after that. But like if we have to play him at second or third, I'm not totally opposed to that. But if we can find guys who can bang, and we can just have Vargas as like a backup depth infielder, outfielder sort of utility guy, I would not be opposed to that either. And then Harai, we want to make sure that he's getting as many ABs against lefties this year. How are we going to do that? I don't know. Maybe not play Dylan Head against lefties. Maybe that's something. Dylan Head is only playing against righties this year. I don't know. But we want to get Harai's bat and against lefties because obvious reasons. He needs to play against lefties. And then aside from that, all these other guys don't have guaranteed spots. Like Ortega could be our backup catcher. Scrooby could be our backup catcher. We could bring in somebody else. Jeremy Green might be on this team. Chris King, I doubt, is on this team. He has no more options. Ivar Arquette is gone. Wilfried de la Cruz is more of a depth option at this point. Angel Miguel is somebody we might trade because of this motivation lacking that he has, and just he's not really that great. Or he just might be depth for us. Who knows? David Hall is a depth outfielder we have in the system who did really well in AAA this year. Corbin Carroll's an expiring contract we picked up at the deadline. And then George Mikoff is projected to get $6.5 million in arbitration, and I just don't think he's worth that. So he's probably going to be a guy we look to trade this offseason. And we've got a whole bunch of spots opening up on this roster when it comes to the bats-wise. And then on the pitching side of things, like I said, Patino, Godfrey, Hernandez are guaranteed in the rotation. We have 2 open spots, whether those are in-house or whether those are out of the organization that we fill them with. Those spots are open for either one of those options. And then as far as guys who have guaranteed spots and guys who are maybe... These are different tier lists. So basically, Garreau, Elizalde, and Abelt, who we have for one more season, at a very cheap price because the Cubs are retaining most of his salary to go along with Garreau and Elizalde. Elizalde is not yet arbitration eligible yet, and Garreau is signed long-term through 2040 on a very team-friendly deal. And then Cajones and Macias are both guaranteed on the spot, so those are 5 names right there. Cajones will probably play him in a bit less of a low-leverage role this year, try to get him some more actual action. And then Macias is just turned into a really good reliever for us, so he's going to keep getting his opportunities. And then the rest of these guys, Hernandez, we're going to look to move off his contract. Bird is a maybe, maybe not. We're leaning towards he'll be back. He's been good for us. He is making $3 million this season, so kind of iffy. If we want to save money, we could look to trade him, get somebody of equal value in there for him. If not, I don't mind bringing him back at $3 million. And then TJ Griffin, same sort of thing with him. I think we're going to lean towards bringing him back just because he's like this new, what we want to do with the control movement, and he's one of really our only effective lefties that we have in-house. So TJ Griffin, even at $4.2 million, I'm leaning towards bringing him back. And then these next 2 tiers, these emergency starting pitchers, are guys who are like maybe, maybe not in the bullpen. So Casey Peterson, probably more so depth at this point. He has one more option year, though, and it's less than, it's league minimum, so might as well just have him on the 40-man. Onfrio Lopez, same deal with him. He's a depth option for us. Maybe he's on our staff, maybe he's not. He's also has options and on league minimum. And then Adamar Sadio, who is that lefty, finesse lefty starter who did well in Double-A this past season. I added him to the 40-man, and he is possible option, possible depth. And then these specialist tiers are guys who have no options. So these are guys that we either have to trade or commit to having on our team. Do we want to give Omar Garcia an actual chance in the rotation this year to see if he can fill in that 65 potential? Maybe. He did pretty well in AAA this year. He was horrible in the big leagues in his limited time. We might give him a rotation spot and see if he can finally figure it out, because ideally he's really good for us and he would fit that control movement type guy that we're looking for. Then there's Prospero Cannavaro, who is not fitting that type. He does have some really good movement and home run suppression, so he might be a guy we keep just as a reliever with this sort of profile. Maybe we give him some starting options, but I'm kind of leaning towards keeping him, but also at the same time, we might trade him. Also, still don't know why his player card doesn't appear. It's just like the default thing here, no actual team. I've tried refreshing, nothing happens. But anyways, he has no options, so we have to decide if we want to keep him. Gustavo Rico has no options, and he's been underachieving in the big leagues. Every time we give him a chance, you could see 2033 was not good, 2034 was not good with the underlying stuff, and then this past season was not good either. So even though he's a lefty and we're dying for lefties, I don't think he's going to be a guy who sticks around in the organization. Then there is Rico Vergan, who had one good year in 2034, and then this past season was not good at all. Got 13 starts, was terrible, went down to AAA, was like kind of okay down there, and he has no options. So he is league minimum. We might try to keep him in the system. We might try to trade him away. Who knows? But I don't think he's going to be on the big league staff, so we're kind of leaning towards trading him to get some more flexible options on our team. And then the other non-specified guys are just guys who are 100% expiring contracts. Gregory Santos, expiring contract we traded for. Logan Gilbert, expiring contract to fill the fifth starter spot for us last season. And Jackson Cox, who we picked up at the deadline, expiring contract. So that's the breakdown of the arms. And there's just nobody interested in Iva Arquette, so we are just simply going to void the last year of his contract, buy him out for $550,000. He will not be back on next year's team. So we have gone through and added our 10 players to the development lab here. The first one is Marique Godfroy. We are trying to tap into his secondary pitch improvement because right now he only has 2 good pitches. We would like to see possibly this curveball tapped into to get more of this potential unlocked. And hopefully with that being unlocked also would move up his stuff a bit. Then also Pedro Patino has some potential here in the control, so I figured why not try? Why not try to get this with his adaptability work ethic? Worth a shot. And then Tony Elizalde, same thing with him. He has some control potential here, and he's a guy who, like, maybe we move him to the rotation this year. Maybe we stop using him as a super reliever and we put him in the rotation for us and he turns into a monster starter for us. So we're going to try to do that with him, I think. But for now, we are going to try to tap into this control for him with his already 4 above average pitches. Jalen McCoy, going to try to tap into this BABIP potential. Maybe turn it into a bit of a higher average. I mean, hit 314 this year, but if we can get the BABIP up to go along with this avoid K and power, that'd be cool. Rod Cajones, increasing his pitch movement, pretty self-explanatory. We want this home run allowed to get up, combo with the stuff, the 80 grade slider and cutter with the big movement. That would be fantastic. Corey Goodman, who was our second round pick this past season, durable lefty reliever. He ended the year in A-ball. Didn't really pitch too much in pro ball for us, but we would like to see him tap into some more of this stuff here, and hopefully he can be a really, really good reliever for us within the next season or two. And then Andy Hodge, trying to improve his control. We could have went with movement. We could have went with trying to improve one of his pitches, but I decided to go with control since it's only 40 out of 50. Figured why not. And then Sal Morales, who was our first-round pick this past season. We are trying to tap into his gap power potential, possibly get a Juan Padilla-type boost, maybe get that potential up as well. Although the Dev Lab basically never does anything for me in this year's game, unlike it did last year. So who knows? Maybe he turns into something, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just a slap hitter who plays really good shortstop. But maybe we can get a gap power boost here this offseason, the Dev Lab. Then there's Sergio Del Cid, who we are trying to tap into his power here, turn him into a little bit of like a third base type Jalen McCoy with this decent avoid K and power. Make him a bit more of a viable power threat this season. That would be fantastic. Maybe he competes for the third base job if that's the case. And then we also have Jeremy Green, who we picked up from Milwaukee last offseason. We want to tap into this very good gap power. He already has 55, but if we can get that up into the 60s or the 70s, that would be fantastic. Alrighty, folks, we are here at the point of the offseason where they give out the awards. So, here in the National League, once again, Juan Cuadras is your National League MVP. That is his 5th straight MVP. Once again, what can you say about this guy? He is the best player in the world. He took it to us in the playoffs, and he's a World Series champion. So Juan Cuadras gets the MVP. Jalen McCoy finishes 4th as a rookie. Mark Antonio finished 5th. So we had 2 guys getting MVP votes. In the American League, it was Jonathan Gonzalez of the Las Vegas Athletics, their first baseman, putting up an 8 WAR, leading the league in doubles, ribbies, runs, slash line. Big-time player for the A's. On the National League pitching side of things, it's Bryce Ellis from the Phillies who wins the Cy Young, Andres Pagan of the Reds behind him, then Sasaki and Neville of the Dodgers, and Tony Elizalde getting Cy Young votes as a reliever. This season, he will be in the bullpen. He will be in the rotation. That is the plan for him heading into this season. The American League Cy Young winner was Yoshioka Kobayashi on the Guardians, who were not a good team. Apparently now he's on Boston. I guess they traded him at the deadline. So they did trade him at the deadline, and he was good for both teams. He wins the Cy Young for his season split between Cleveland and Boston. And Jalen McCoy gets top 4 in the MVP, also wins the National League Rookie of the Year. And because of that, we actually get ourselves the prospect incentive first-round supplemental draft pick. So we've got ourselves an extra pick this year, and a high pick at that, for Jalen McCoy's Rookie of the Year season. The American League rookie was Sergio Ramirez of the White Sox. Sure, decent season, like slappy catcher, whatever. The National League Silver Sluggers, Jalen McCoy at first base wins it for us, and Mark Antonio at the DH position. Those are our only Silver Sluggers. And then on the National League Reliever of the Year, it was Luke Garreau, not Elizalde, even though Elizalde got Cy Young votes and Garreau didn't. Garreau gets the Reliever of the Year award, which is now his 3rd straight, 2033, 34, and 35. All the way from a 20th round pick to this, pretty crazy stuff. And then Tony Elizalde, as a scouting discovery, going to be in our rotation this year, as I said. And just to show everyone, the PPI bonus for Jalen McCoy, the prospect promotion incentive eligibility of him, results in us getting a supplemental first-round draft pick. Alrighty, folks, we are here at the international free agent signing portion of the offseason. Bit of a smaller class this year, but we did end up getting one of the top-end guys in Esteban Andres here. Big-time BABIP, gap power, power potential, righty-righty, not really an outfielder. Doesn't really have a positional home at the moment, but this bat was just way too good to pass up on, and he was not super expensive anything either, so we were able to get some other guys. We did not have to spend the max on him. $2.2 million for Esteban here. And then we also picked up a man from Curacao, second nationality Dutch, as you can clearly tell. I'm gonna take a stab at this name. Jikshorn? Something? Dick Shorn? I doubt it's Dick Shorn. Maybe it is. I don't know. Whatever this guy's name is. Very interesting, cool language that makes a lot of sense. Is Dutch, they're saying. That's what they say about it. We pick him up as an outfielder. Righty, 60 range, 80 grade gap power. We pick him up for $1.4 million. And then we also get a reliever out of the Dominican Republic, a right-hander named Jesus Ramos, who has an 80 grade fastball with some high control, movement, decent stuff to go along with it, as well as an average splitter. High adaptability and work ethic, is going to throw super hard as well. We picked him up for $380,000. And then we also got a catcher in Jesus Maldonado, who has some decent gap power, and eye. He's durable, not the best catcher at the moment, but maybe he can develop, who knows. We got him for a very measly, or I got very measly, but $480,000. And those were the 4 players that we signed in this year's IFA class. Well, folks, we have reached the 2036 campaign The offseason is over. The league has been realigned, and there are now 2 new teams here in Major League Baseball to kick off the 2036 season. First things first, let's actually take a look at how this new league realignment is looking. It's basically the same exact thing as it was last year. If you watched the Angels/Oaks series in OOTP 25, it's the same realignment. The only difference is that I'm pretty sure I had the different divisions in different leagues. Like, I don't think it was Metro and Southern and Great Lakes and Western paired up as AL and NL. But essentially, I think I might have had it last year where it was Metro and West and then Great Lakes and Southern were paired together. And I kind of realized that was a bit of a flaw because you're getting all the coastal elite cities in one league, so you're just automatically basically having the NL. I don't know. At least in my mind, the NL, if you have it at both Great Lakes and Southern. But then the way I set it up like this, then I realized that both of the expansion teams were in the American League, so I probably should have done it to where it was like the Metro and the Great Lakes were paired up with the Southern and the Western or something like that. But we didn't do it that way. Maybe I'll do that at some point, but for now, this is what it's going to be. The Metro is the Orioles, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, Phillies, Pirates, Nationals, and I did end up going with the Expos as the new team, just because there's really not a lot of options that you could go with for teams that'll fit in that Northeast corridor. While in the Southern Division, it is the Braves, us, Astros, Royals, Cardinals, Rays, Rangers, and the New Orleans Rougarou. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the Rougarou here, it is from French Cajun folklore, a like half man, half werewolf type creature. So it's kind of in the same vein as the New Jersey Devils being named the Devils because of the Jersey Devil legend in the Pine Barrens. This is sort of in that same vein where it's like a local legend sort of thing, a mythical creature as a Rougarou. So their jerseys, of course they've reset. I literally just did this like 10 minutes ago, and the game is doing its shit where it's like so incredibly delayed that it's going to take me 15 minutes. So whatever reason, it kept the away jerseys. So there you go. They're black with like a purplish and like a mystical sort of tealish color. They kind of look like the modern day Marlins. I wasn't going for that, but it was just a rough logo team color scheme I came up with. We might mess with it somewhere down the line, but at least for the first few seasons, this will be the New Orleans color scheme and logo. Maybe we go to like a full-time sort of Mardi Gras color scheme at some point, or maybe even just an alternate jersey. But for now, this is what the New Orleans team is going to be rocking. Well then, just to show you guys, the Montreal Expos jerseys are going to be their like 90s jerseys with the pinstripes. So that's I think we went with the like 80s, 70s throwback style as their main look last time. So this time we're going with the pinstripes as the home look. The away look is that gray version. And then we are also going with the Friday homes. So every Friday home game, they're going to be rocking this. And then every Sunday game, no matter if it's home or on the road, they'll be rocking the blues, the powder blues. So pretty good set that the Montreal Expos got going for them. And then taking a look at the National League side of things, it is the Chicago teams, the Cincinnati Reds, the Cleveland Guardians, the Detroit Tigers, Milwaukee Brewers, Minnesota Twins, and Toronto Blue Jays. While in the Western Division, it is the D-backs, the Rockies, the Angels, the Dodgers, the A's, the Padres, the Mariners, and the San Francisco Giants. So 8 teams throughout four divisions. The playoff format is going to look like this. It is just the regular same sort of rounds. There's a wild card with a division, championship, and World Series. Each winner of the divisions gets an automatic bye from each league. So the AL Southern Division and the AL Metro Division get a bye, while then the seeding of the wild card determines who plays the next round. The second wild card plays the third one. The fourth wild card plays the first wild card. And then they play to see who moves on to the DS. It's the same thing for the National League, obviously. I can scroll down and show you that. Western, Great Lakes get the bye. So then wildcard plays it out, they advance, and it reseeds each round. So the higher seed is always guaranteed to be playing the worse off team. So the regular season actually matters much more than it does in real life, how it should be, because we're not concerned about TV money and whatnot in this universe. And then we're just doing best of 5 in the wild card round. It's not best of 7 or not best of 3. It's just best of 5 in the wild card round. And then the DS, CS, and World Series are all best of 7, 2 home, 3 away, 2 home. And then the wild card is 2 home, 2 away, 1 home. So that is the setup for the playoffs. As far as how our offseason went, there was a lot of transactions going on. There wasn't anything too crazy, but we definitely had some roster shifting going around this offseason. We take a look, starting things off in the month of November. We made a bunch of trades, guys that we just didn't want to have in the organization anymore, whether they were out of options or trying to move away from players like that. We made some moves. So Alex Moeda, no longer on the Marlins. He is now on the Cardinals. We traded him. He is wrecked. Sent him to the Cardinals in return for Hector Alfaro, who is an extreme ground ball reliever. He was a 50 when we traded for him. We are having him scouted, but he's a high movement, decent control, has had some decent seasons in the big leagues as a, like I said, extreme ground ball reliever. He's in our bullpen here to start the season, just like Moeda would have been. We also traded Ryan Caperton, who was a 24-year-old starter prospect who I just thought, this is just another one of these guys with like really low control, not the greatest movement, who I just didn't really want to bank on and didn't really have an immediate spot in our team. So we traded him to the Detroit Tigers. He's starting for them. We have him on our former fish list, obviously. We're going to be keeping an eye on him. And in return, we got Eddie Zahn, 28-year-old second baseman. He is actually our starting second baseman this season. Vargas will mix in a decent amount at second base, but Eddie Zahn is listed as the starter. He can hit decently well against righties and lefties, while Vargas is pretty much cooked against righties at this point. Eddie Zahn hasn't really had too much time starting in the big leagues. You look at his numbers over the year, it's mainly been as a bench player with St. Louis, but he is coming off a good season with Detroit as a bench player as well. So Eddie Zahn going to get some time to actually start here for us for a bit. Also, every time I see this guy's name now, I'm just going to be going in my head, Ed Zahn. He's ready to go on the Fan, New York Sports Radio. And then we did end up trading Chris King. He was one of those depth infield players that we had. He had no more options, so we traded him to the Cleveland Guardians, who we made a couple trades with because basically all these guys were not having any interest whatsoever, and the Guardians were just like, here, have this like group of like 6 dudes that will be willing to trade and nobody else. So we traded Chris King for Luis Martinez, who when we traded for him looked like he was going to be a bit better of a starter option. He right now is not looking like that. He is currently on waivers for us. He was DFA'd to pass the waivers. If he doesn't pass, whatever. If he does, cool. We have him as depth. Then we also traded Gustavo Rico, the 25-year-old lefty who could just never put it together for us. He had no more options left, so he was just not going to make our team because we just have a really tight bullpen crunch. So we sent him to the Dodgers because they gave us Miguel Acevedo, their closer, because he is coming back from a torn flexor tendon. He's fragile. And I was just like, hey, man, this guy we know can perform. We're going to take a shot on the guy who's coming off elbow surgery, and we're going to give them a guy who has some promise but has never really shown it. They're similar ages. Acevedo's still on a league minimum contract. For this season. Next year it will go up to arbitration, but it's cheap as a reliever, so Miguel Acevedo, we'll see him at some point this season. And then there was a decently big trade. We sent Angel Miguel to the Cleveland Guardians. You could see here, he's in AAA for them. He just wasn't really my cup of tea, so we sent him to Cleveland along with a catcher just to do the deal in return for William Bautista, a 25-year-old depth starter reliever sort of type who has been improving quite a bit over the last couple of seasons. And I was just like, why not? Why not take a shot on this guy? So we took him, and we also got George Caron, who is a Canadian from the University of BC. Maybe he's something, probably just depth. And then we continued to be moving on from our players, and Prospero Cannavaro, who is going to be the closer for the Cardinals this season. Him and Moeda are on the Cardinals, who the Cardinals love themselves some big stuff, low control sort of players. We ended up getting two really intriguing players in return for Prospero Cannavaro, and the main reason we traded him was because he was out of options and I wasn't sure he was going to make the roster crunch. So we sent him to St. Louis, and in return, we got Bill Borges, who has not fully developed his movement and control yet, but looks like it could be really good. Now, it is going to be a single-inning pitcher. He did have some good success for them last season, even with these ratings. 80 stuff, 85 curve, 80 cutter. I figured why not take a shot on this guy, even though we're trying to move away from fly ball pitchers. You know, he had some options left, so I was like, why not get him for Cannavaro? And then we also got another guy for him in Tyler Romano, who was another big stuff, low control, but once again, he was actually controllable, so we took a shot on him, and he's in AAA for us to start the season as well. We also threw on a couple pieces on the end of the deal. Paul Hamilton was just like he was a 45 when we traded for him as like a 30-year-old starter in AAA. And then also this catcher, Eddie Martinez, who I wasn't sure if he was going to make our team, ended up not making the team. He was taken by the Shreveport's with the AAA team. The New Orleans Rougarou was... he was taken by them, so he's in AAA for the new expansion team to start the season. And then here you can see all the players that we had who were taken in the expansion draft. We lost 4 players. Andres Mancina was a interesting-ish sort of corner outfield type. When we had him, his gap power and it wasn't really that intriguing to me. It's mostly avoid K. It wasn't really something that I was like standing out to me, so I just didn't feel like we needed to protect him. He's a ground ball hitter too, and he's playing for Montreal to start this season, or I guess for their AAA team. And then New Orleans took 3 of our other players. David Hall. Our outfield depth is definitely a bit suspect heading into this season because New Orleans took quite a few of our guys. David Hall here maybe would have been our 4th outfielder this season. Instead, he is the starting left fielder for the New Orleans Rougarou. And then George Mikov starting in right field for them. We did end up giving him a 1-year deal because I just couldn't find a trade partner for him. He had that little trade value. But we left him unprotected because, once again, we had a big crunch on the unprotected list. He did not make it onto the list. And Mikov ends up in New Orleans for the final year of his team control here before he hits free agency. So then, once free agency hit, we ended up making a couple signings, really only one notable name, and that is veteran Bobby Witt Jr., brought in on a 1-year deal. 1 year, $19.5 million. He is playing third base for us. You can see here he can still hang at shortstop. He is coming off a season where he put up a 9ZR at shortstop, but we have Brooks Lee, and I would rather have the guy who can actually play third base, as opposed to Lee, playing third base, who can't hit anymore. So Lee's playing short, Bobby Witt's playing third. And we got 35, almost 36-year-old Bobby Witt for a season. Hopefully he's good for us. Unfortunately, he is unmotivated in this game for whatever reason, but he has been really good, and he's still been really good. Coming off a 5-WAR season with the Texas Rangers, he's just been a really good player, and he's still a good player. So we're hoping that we can get some production out of him because, like I said, infield last year was a big, big problem for us. And then you can see here, Wilfred De La Cruz was indeed DFA'd and waived, and then claimed by San Francisco, simply because, is it going to say it on here? It's not. Well, he got an email. Is going to show here? Here we go. Boom. Wilfred De La Cruz, he ended up going to India to see the guru, came back being like, baseball's not the most important thing in my life. So we waived and DFA'd him. San Francisco did the same thing, and I guess now he's on Atlanta, which is where we traded for him from in the first place, I'm pretty sure. So, back where he started. So now let's take a look at what our actual roster looks like here to start the season. 1 through 5 in the rotation, it is Pedro Patino. Tony Elizalde moved into the rotation this season. We are excited to see how he does. I thought about extending him in the offseason. Unfortunately, he's already such a solidified player that he wants a big, big, big contract, which we are not a team that can afford something like this. So Elizalde, we're basically just going to be having him for the next 3 years of arbitration, maybe 2, and then we trade him. But we'll see. Maybe we try to get 1 year of free agency, but Elizalde, we did not give him an extension. Same thing with McCoy. McCoy already was immediately like, I want the big bucks, and I'm like, you're a first baseman. Obviously a really good bat, but I'm not going to be in the business of just extending 3 different first basemen, which is essentially what we have and horrible first baseman at that, and Mark Antonio, McCoy, and Alex Garcia. But anyways, the rest of the pitching staff here, Jose Hernandez, Marique Godfroy, and then Omar Garcia is indeed getting that 5th starter spot. He's improved his overall to a 50, looking like he can hang. We're hoping that he can actually develop into the potential player that he looks like he can be. While in the bullpen, the stoppers are Ben Abelt and Luke Garreau, Rod Cajones, Hector Alfaro, Mike Bird, TJ Griffin, and Angel Macias, or Angel Macias, are middle relievers, and then Ramon Hernandez is indeed back. Same thing with him when it came to trading guys. There was just not a lot of value for him out there. And he is obviously, we weren't trying to get value for him because we are just trying to salary dump him. But I figured, why not just get him for one more season? Maybe he could turn things around, turn into a monster for us this year. And if not, we can just salary dump him next season. So then taking a look at the lineups here against right-handed pitching, it is Bobby Witt Jr. playing third base, leading things off, followed by Mark Antonio, Alex Garcia, Jalen McCoy, Jorge Garza, Eddie Zahn, Brooks Lee, Dustin Asbell, and then Dylan Head playing center field. While against lefties, it is Seitaro Harai leading things off in the DH spot, Mark Antonio in left, Garcia in right, McCoy at first, Garza in center, Witt playing third, Zahn playing second, Lee shortstop, and then Dustin Asbell rounding things out as the catcher. As you can see, Vargas is going to be getting a lot of time here. We're probably going to throw him maybe like every 5th day, maybe every 4th day. We'll leave it as if starter tied for now. Maybe against lefties, we'll go like every 3rd day for Vargas. But for the most part, Vargas is going to be the super utility backup. We have this Shane Sharnick guy is our other backup infielder, or outfielder rather. He's a switch hitter who's much better against righties. Nothing too special, but, you know, he's decently fast, can put bat on ball, can play all 3 outfield positions, high work ethic. Figured why not give this guy a chance? And if he doesn't work out, we have some other similar type options, because like I said, the depth in the 4th outfield spot is not the most ideal heading into this season. So now taking a look at the programs here that we had the offseason. The first round of them, Godfroy did not improve his secondary pitch. Neither did Patino with his control. Let's just go over the successes. Successes, Elizalde improved his control. Looks the same to me, but the potential did go up, I guess. So it says the potential did not change, but that's the only thing that actually changed. Sure, whatever. Outstanding improvement for the BABIP on Lonnie Goldberg's the scout, on Jalen McCoy. Not sure how it's outstanding, and they're both under 5, but Jalen McCoy now has 50 BABIP, which I think was 45 last year with the 50 potential, so I guess we'll take that. You know, last year outstanding meant you would get like a plus 10 bump. Not anymore, I guess. Rod Cajones improved his movement slightly. Corey Goodman improved his changeup a bit. You know, still looks about the same to me, but he is in Double-A to start the season. He might end up on the big leagues at some point this year. And then Sal Morales did indeed slightly improve his gap. Still horrible, though, and he's dropped his potential down to a 45, so, you know, classic sort of our draft pick thing to happen. Sergio Del Cid did indeed slightly improve his power. Basically looks the same, so not really anything to show for it there. And then on the second set for the defensive ones, we had Jalen McCoy did improve his first base a bit, so we can actually play first base decently well this season, hopefully. Alex Garcia, we tried to improve his outfield. He did nothing. Same with Sid in the infield. And then the only other 2 successful ones were Hector Navarro, who is the depth infielder that we have. We tried to improve his infield defense so he could possibly give us some second base, but he's mainly first base here. Right-handed bat who mashes lefties, can hold his own against righties. He's in AAA for us as depth. We picked him up in the offseason on a minor league deal. And then Eshedri Vargas did indeed prove his outfield a bit. So now he has that 60 range in the infield and in the outfield, which is why he's now like our super utility man heading into this season. Which, by the way, I did indeed expose him and Swamp Baby in the expansion draft, but none of the expansion teams wanted him. So he's still on our team. And as far as the preseason predictions heading into the first year of the new league alignments, the American League, Baltimore Orioles and Pittsburgh Pirates are projected to both win 90 games, tied for the top, with the Red Sox, Phillies, and Yankees all right behind them winning 80+. While in the Southern Division, we are projected to win 99 along with the Cardinals, the Astros projected to win 90+, and then the Braves with 85 wins. We are getting no respect on the hitters and no respect on the pitchers, because of course we aren't. And then on the National League side of things, it is the Twins, White Sox, Brewers, Blue Jays, and Reds, all just in a giant mess right here in the Great Lakes Division. And then the Western Division is the Dodgers running away with that, with the Padres really the only other competitive team in that division.